You are 21 years old, and you live in a colonia called El Dorado on the south edge of Culiacán, where the asphalt stops being maintained and the streetlights work 3 nights out of 7. Your mother cleans offices. She leaves at 4:45 in the morning and comes back at 6 in the evening, and the only evidence that she was ever home between those hours is a covered plate left for you in the refrigerator with a piece of masking tape on the lid that says your name in her handwriting. You have a younger brother named Rodrigo who is 14 and who wants to be a mechanic. He keeps a disassembled motorcycle engine on a piece of cardboard in the corner of the room you share, organized by part in a way that makes sense to him and to nobody else. You don't touch it. You have learned to step around it in the dark. Your father is not dead. He is in a federal correctional facility in Durango, serving a 12-year sentence for armed robbery. He has been there since you were 9. He writes letters twice a year, at Christmas and at your birthday, in careful slanted handwriting that always mentions God and always mentions that he is proud of you, which you used to find strange and have since stopped feeling anything about at all. You finished secondary school. You started preparatoria. You made it 14 months before your mother's morning job was cut to 3 days a week and the math stopped working. You left without finishing. You did not think of it as a choice. You thought of it as a fact, the way you thought of the broken streetlights as a fact. Not unfair, just the way the neighborhood was arranged. What you had instead of school was attention. You had the kind of attention that is not taught and cannot be learned. The kind that reads a block the way other people read a room. Who belongs where? Which car has been parked too long? Which person's eyes move before their feet do? Which corner is managed and which one is contested, and what the difference looks like from 40 meters away in the dark. You grew up reading the neighborhood like a language, and by the time you were 17, you were fluent in things that have no name and no classroom. A man named Toro noticed this. Toro is 37. He runs logistics for the Rendon cell, which is one of 4 cells operating under the Sinaloa umbrella in this district. He's not a dramatic man. He does not wear jewelry. He drives a 10-year-old Silverado. He watches you for 6 weeks from a distance that you don't notice at the time and will only reconstruct later. And on a Thursday evening, he says 2 sentences to you through the window of the truck. He says, "I've been watching how you watch. I need someone who does that professionally." He says the number is 22,000 pesos a week. You think about your mother's plate in the refrigerator. You think about Rodrigo's motorcycle parts in the dark. You think about your father's slanted handwriting and the 12 years and what 12 years costs a family in ways that have nothing to do with the sentence itself. You say yes before the window goes up. The first thing Toro teaches you is that the job is not what you think it is. Most of the work is observation. 90% of what you do in the first 4 months is watch, report, and wait. You learn 3 target addresses in 2 weeks, not to act on them, but to understand their patterns. When the lights go on, when the cars arrive, who visits and how often, and for how long. You write nothing down. You carry it in your head, the way your brother carries engine tolerances, in a system that makes complete sense to you and would mean nothing to anyone else. Toro teaches you about static surveillance, how to park a car with a dead battery 3 blocks from an address and spend 4 hours watching nothing unusual happen and report that accurately, because nothing unusual happening is information. He teaches you about following a vehicle, not trailing it, which is visible, but anticipating it, positioning yourself where it is going to be rather than where it is. He teaches you that the most dangerous thing a person in your profession can do is develop a signature. No pattern, no routine, no favorite corner. The moment you are predictable, you are a liability. You were never predictable. That was always the skill. Toro just gave it a structure. In month 5, you are assigned your first direct action. The target is a man named Galindo, 38 years old. He manages a warehouse in the Bachigualato district that the Rendon cell used to use for product storage. Galindo has been providing location information to a rival group, not out of loyalty, Toro explains, but out of debt. He owes 190,000 pesos to a private lender connected to the Salazar network and has been paying with information he doesn't own. He's not an ideological enemy. He is a structural problem. Toro hands you a photograph and an address and a time window. He hands you a Glock 19 with the serial number removed by someone who knew what they were doing. He does not say good luck. He says clean means nothing connects back to a location or a person. Clean is the only acceptable outcome. You study the address for 4 days on your own, not because Toro told you to, but because that is how you think. You walk the surrounding 4 blocks at different times of day. You map 3 exit routes for the vehicle. You identify 1 camera, a Coppel department store security camera on the corner, and you understand its coverage angle to within 15 degrees. You know before the morning of the job exactly where to be, for how long, and which way the vehicle needs to turn afterward. The job takes 11 minutes from arrival to departure. On the drive back, you feel the ringing silence you've been told about by people who have done this before and who described it differently. Some said peace, some said horror. What you feel is neither. What you feel is the specific flatness of a system returning to rest, a calculation that has been completed. You eat a torta de pierna at a roadside stand 40 minutes later, and your hands are completely still, and you think this is what you are, not what you chose, what you are. Toro pays you 35,000 pesos that afternoon. He says, "That's the cleanest first job I've seen in 11 years." You don't answer. You go home and step around Rodrigo's engine parts in the dark, and lie on your bed and look at the ceiling and wait for something to happen inside you. Nothing does. That is the information. That nothing happens is the information. By the time you are 25 years old, you've been assigned 14 jobs over 3 years. You know this number exactly. You know the address of each one, and the time of day, and the make of the vehicle you used, and what you did with the vehicle after. You know which 3 had complications and what the complications were, and what you did to resolve them without creating secondary exposure. You know that of the 14, 12 were structural, organizational discipline, territorial enforcement, information breach, and 2 were what the cell calls political, meaning they involved individuals with connections outside the immediate criminal ecosystem who required a different level of operational planning. The political jobs paid 120,000 pesos each. You kept that money in a separate place from the rest. You've developed the operational discipline of someone who understands that survival is not courage, it's system. You use 3 phones, each for a different function, and you change all 3 every 45 days. You meet Toro never more than once in any location. You have a cover identity that is not sophisticated. You tell people in your mother's neighborhood that you work private security for a transport company, which is true in a way that satisfies casual questions and doesn't invite follow-up. You have not had a serious relationship with anyone because the operational cost of someone knowing your schedule is too high, and you made that calculation early and cleanly and did not revisit it. You send 12,000 pesos a month to your mother. You told her it was overtime pay and hazard differential, and she asked no questions because she needed to not ask questions, and you both understood that without discussing it. She bought a microwave. She took a Sunday off work for the first time in 4 years. Small things, real things. The kind of things that are unglamorous and specific and cost exactly what they cost and mean everything. Rodrigo finished school. He is apprenticing at a mechanics workshop in the Centro district. He calls you on Sundays sometimes and tells you about the engines. You listen carefully because listening is something you know how to do, and because on Sunday afternoons, listening to your brother talk about engines is the cleanest thing in your week. The thing about this life that nobody tells you is that it does not feel like a life. It feels like a job, not a career. A job in the flat, functional sense, the kind you do with professional competence and take home from and set down again the next time. The moral weight that you expected to accumulate, that other people tell you accumulates, that movies show you accumulates, did not arrive on schedule. You have been waiting for it for 4 years, and it has not fully come, and that is more disturbing to you than any version of it that might have. What arrives instead, slowly, at 25, is arithmetic. The arithmetic begins with a phone call from your mother in October. Rodrigo has been approached. A man came to the workshop where he apprentices, not Toro, not anyone you recognize from the description, and offered him work, not mechanical work. Your brother is 17, and he has your attention and your spatial intelligence, and he is in the neighborhood where this always starts, and someone has noticed him. Rodrigo told your mother, not you. He told her because he didn't know what it was. She called you because she did. You sit with that phone call for 3 days. You sit with the arithmetic of it. You made one decision at 17 in a dark street with a truck window coming down, and that decision has a shape. It has a beginning that you can see clearly, and a middle that you are living inside, and an end that you are not able to see, but that you have assisted in producing 14 times for 14 other people, and you understand mathematically what the distribution of outcomes looks like.
Rodrigo is 17. He is good with engines. He has not yet made the decision. The decision has not yet found him in the right way at the right moment with the right number attached. You calculate, sitting on the edge of your bed in the dark, approximately one useful intervention available. One conversation, one redirect, one structure that could place Rodrigo somewhere the decision cannot reach him as easily. A city, a program, an apprenticeship in Hermosillo with a Dorado that is too far and too specific for casual recruitment and that has your money behind it until he is old enough to be behind himself. You can do that. You have the money. You have the contact network. You can move one person out of one neighborhood into one different trajectory. What you cannot do, and this is where the arithmetic gets precise and cold, is be the person who does that for him while also being what you are. Because what you are has a geometry. It has a radius, and the radius eventually includes everyone you are connected to. You can save Rodrigo from the decision. You cannot save him from you. Not unless you solve yourself first. Getting out of this kind of structure is not a conversation. It is an engineering problem. You know this because you have been on the operational end of what happens when people try to make it a conversation. 3 times in 4 years you have been the response to a conversation someone else tried to have. You have no illusions about what the conversation produces. So, you don't have the conversation. You build the exit the way you built every job, without telling anyone, without rushing, in small steps that individually look like nothing. You begin with Rodrigo. You tell your mother you want to help him do a formal apprenticeship program. There is one in Hermosillo attached to an agricultural equipment company that takes young mechanics for 18-month placements. You have researched it specifically. You cover the placement fee, the housing stipend, the monthly transfer that will make leaving home feel like stability rather than loss. You frame it to your mother as opportunity. You frame it to Rodrigo as what it is, a way out of the neighborhood before the neighborhood makes decisions for him. He is smart enough to understand without the full explanation. He leaves in January. You begin building distance from Toro's operation, not suddenly, gradually. You become less available, a family situation requiring attention, travel that can't be avoided. You are reliable enough over 4 years that inconsistency reads as a personal circumstance rather than a structural decision. You miss one assignment. You make yourself useful in a different way. Analysis, surveillance advice, assessing a location that keeps you embedded without being the person who goes to the address. This is a transition. You are replacing yourself with your own ghost. You start moving money, not laundering it. You do not have that architecture, but consolidating it. You have been keeping cash in 4 locations for 3 years, some in the wall of the bedroom, some with a cousin in Navalato who doesn't ask questions, some in 2 safe deposit boxes in 2 different cities in 2 different banks. You close 1 box. You move money to Navalato. You buy a small plot of land in Sonora through a cousin's husband's name. Nothing valuable, agricultural land, but land is real, and land is not cash in a wall, and land does not disappear in an arrest. You make contact with a man named Fierro in Mazatlan, who runs a private security company, legitimate, licensed, the kind that protects logistics convoys and business owners in contested territories. Fiero knows what you are without being told, which is why he is useful rather than dangerous. He needs people with your specific professional skill set who can advise on threat assessment and route security without requiring an explanation of how they know what they know. It is not a clean life, but it is a different geometry, a different radius. You have a plan. The plan has 11 steps. You are on step 4. Step 7 is where it fractures. Toro finds you at a tire shop in the Las Quintas district on a Wednesday afternoon in March. He is alone, which means he is not there to do anything operational. He is there to talk, which in its own way is more serious. He sits across from you at a plastic table with 2 Coca-Colas between you, and he speaks for 6 minutes without raising his voice. He says the cell has noticed your reduced availability. He says this is not a criticism. He says it the way Briseño said things, like a senior doctor talking to a resident, carefully, with precision. He says the organization has an investment in your skills. And he uses that word investment with the specific weight that makes clear it is not a metaphor. He says, we're not asking you to do anything today. We're asking you to be available. Available. You understand what available means. Available means the radius stays the same. Available means Rodrigo in Hermosillo doesn't fix the geometry. Available means step 4 is as far as the plan gets. You say, I need a few more months, personal situation. He nods. He doesn't press. He finishes the Coca-Cola, and he leaves. You sit with the 2 bottles for a long time after he's gone. Here is what you know, sitting at that plastic table. You are 25 years old. You have 340,000 pesos in consolidated savings. You have a brother in Hermosillo who is learning to rebuild agricultural engines and who called you last Sunday to explain how the injection timing on a Deutz tractor works and who sounded for the first time in years like someone standing in the right place. You have a plan with 11 steps. You are on step 4, and step 7 just collapsed. Here is what else you know. 3 of the 14 jobs you completed in 4 years were people who tried to leave without completing the engineering. You know their names. You know their addresses. You know what the response looks like because you were the response. The arithmetic is not complicated. What you have is a timing problem. The plan still works, but it needs to work faster than you built it. And things built fast in this world break in specific ways that you have seen up close and you do not intend to repeat on yourself. You think about Rodrigo's voice on the phone explaining injection timing. You think about your mother's handwriting on the masking tape on the refrigerator. You think about your father's letters from Durango, the careful slant, God, the pride, 12 years. And what 12 years costs that has nothing to do with the sentence itself. You think about the 14 addresses you know, the clean ones and the complicated ones, and the 2 political ones at 120,000 pesos each that you kept separately and which are now consolidated in Sonora on a piece of agricultural land that is worth nothing and is real. Step 5. Tomorrow. You don't finish the Coca-Cola. You leave the tire shop and you walk to the Silverado, and you sit behind the wheel for a moment, assessing the street the way you have assessed 1,000 streets, the coverage angles, the sight lines, who is where and why. Old discipline. Automatic. It fires without asking. You pull out. You are not done. You are not free, but you are still the person holding the plan, and the plan still has steps, and you have survived on precision for 4 years, and you are going to survive on precision now. Step 5. Tomorrow. Somewhere in El Dorado right now, a 17-year-old is watching a street without knowing that's what he's doing. He can tell you which corner is managed and which is contested. He can tell you which car has been there too long. He reads it the way other people read a face, automatically, without effort, without knowing there's a word for what he does. His teacher would call it spatial reasoning. His teacher would say he's wasting it. A man will notice him. The man will watch him for 6 weeks from a distance. He drives something unremarkable and does not wear jewelry,
and will say 2 sentences through a window. The number will be right. The number is always calibrated to be right. It is not accidental. The number is the first step in the architecture, and it is built to fit the specific weight of whatever that person needs it to lift. The 17-year-old doesn't know that yet. He knows the street. He knows the corner. He knows which light works and which light doesn't. He is going to say yes before the window goes up. He doesn't know that the person who said yes before him is 4 steps into an 11-step plan to undo what yes built. He doesn't know what steps 1 through 3 looked like. He doesn't know about the agricultural land in Sonora, or the brother in Hermosillo, or the plastic table with 2 Coca-Colas, or what the word available means when someone says it while looking at you without blinking. He just knows the street. The street has been reading him back for 3 years. It has already decided. That's a wrap for today. The story is fiction, but the recruitment pipeline is real. The operational discipline is real. The arithmetic of trying to exit a closed system with your family intact, that problem is real, and it has no clean solution. And people are solving it right now in neighborhoods where the streetlights work 3 nights out of 7. If this made you think, drop a comment with your biggest takeaway. Subscribe to POV Vault for more. See you in the next one.